Okay.
We're not praying.
So today is, before we start looking at the text, on the Jewish calendar is a significant day. It's the 17th day of Tammuz. In a religion, in a Jewish program that is really by design upbeat and want to give us a sense of confidence, because we're never alone with God. We should be confident. There are touch points in the year where we focus more on sadness, but really on the things in life which kind of run contrary to the upbeat and or seem to run contrary to the upbeat and confident perspective. Yom Kippur is actually not one of them, even though no one likes fasting, but that's actually a holiday. But there are maybe the most famous one is Tisha B'Av, 9th day of B'Av, which is 3 weeks from today. But the ones that we have are generally all associated with the destruction of the Jewish commonwealths, of the temples, by the Babylonians first, and then by the Romans 400 plus years later. Actually, it's 500, almost 500 years later. So the 17th of Tammuz commemorates the siege of Jerusalem, which there was a siege of Jerusalem which started months earlier, and then on the 17th of Tammuz they pierced the wall. In both cases with the Romans and Babylonians, and then 3 weeks later, actually, the destruction happened. The piercing of the walls is something we look at, even though we're not. This is something historical, but we want to look at it in a personal way also. We all have our own sacred spot connection with God. Our temple, not only our synagogue, but our inner sanctuary, and with us as a people or as individuals. And in different most periods of history, there's been something to be wary of, something to watch our back at. So different times it's been a little bit more enhanced. And one of the things, the protectors, is the walls. And the walls, and when the piercing of the walls doesn't necessarily lead to destruction, but it's a sign of alarm. And I would say, let me just make sure that this is all muted. And one of the things that I remember as a child, when the IDF bombed Iraq's nuclear reactor. Iraq is an heir to the Babylonian Empire. So I was I don't know, 13-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid. I used to read the Newsweek cover to cover that came to my house every week. It struck me that the report there said that Saddam Hussein had called their Osiris reactor, their code name for the reactor was 17 Tammuz, which is he knew more about us than I gave him credit for, but it showed you about his intentions. I think that today also we thank God we live in a wonderful country which has been very good to the Jewish people and will continue to be very good to the Jewish people. But maybe there's a little bit of a crack in the wall that today's a day to think about and to see what we can do to repair the crack, to push back. So now we're going to get into the topic of today. And actually, before we get into the text, I just want to give you a little bit. Actually, let me just show you this. I'm going to share the screen. And then,
are you recording?
I am recording. This is one of the times I remembered. Okay, please note that. Question for discussion. For those who find consistency and routine difficult, how can religious life remain meaningful? Religious life has a lot of routine, and there's doing something routinely I think by nature, it's then we start to do it automatically. And it's harder to find the feeling in it. And I remember many years ago when we started our Sunday mornings, but it was more as a discussion group in the old house. So it had to be 25, 26 years ago. I remember speaking about this, about the challenge that comes with consistency, even if it's consistently good things. And present then was a gentleman who has since passed on. His name was Saul Cooperman. He lives in Bernardsville. He had been the Chancellor of Education, or whatever they call it, the Secretary of Education for the state of New Jersey. And he said, I'm having a hard time getting my mind around it. I spent my life trying to train children in good habits. Now you tell me that the consistent habits is a challenge. So his wife, she should rest in peace, was sitting next to him. I said, Saul, you walk out of the house in the morning, give Paulette a kiss and wish her a good day. You want that to be routine? It's a good habit. It's a good habit, but you want to bring feeling to it. You don't just do it because that's what you do. It's like how people say, how are you doing? And they don't really care how you're doing. They want it just to be routine. And there's a challenge especially in religious life, but perhaps, I guess all of us have our routines that one day to the next day only differ in a small percentage. But certainly Sunday through Friday, we say in the prayers 3 times a day, it's pretty much the same. It's actually the same parts. And then the Saturday changes slightly. This is the routines. I put on tefillin every day. Every Friday night you light Shabbos candles, whatever it may be. There's routines sometimes become automatic, which means lifeless. So there is a challenge that I think is a fair challenge, whether people articulate it to themselves or to others or not, a challenge in this world of trying to have good habits. So, in order to get into this, we're going to talk about something in the Torah portion. The Torah portion doesn't talk about habits at all, but there's something in the Torah portion which is an entryway to talking about this idea of the possible monotony. And the entryway is, at the end of this week's Torah portion, the Torah goes into a discussion of the offerings that were brought in the temple, in the Beis Hamikdash. There's first, it starts off with the idea that there's every day there were 2 offerings brought, same ones every day. Then Shabbos, you have an extra one. We call that musaf, added. On Passover holiday, it's a different set of offerings. On Rosh Hashanah, a different set of offerings. Each holiday has its own offerings. So the discussion we're going to talk about here is a holiday is special. Passover is coming. We prepare for it. It's special. It has its own distinct flavor. Shavuos has its own distinct flavor. Rosh Hashanah has its distinct flavor. Sukkot has its distinct flavor. Tomorrow's Monday. I'm not preparing for Monday. And what's Monday going to be different than Tuesday exactly, except from the 14th, it'll be the 15th. And this is a discussion of being able, because a lot of this is in how we see the world, and especially if we see it through spiritual eyes, be able to see a power in and a beauty, a special beauty in the routine. And just to give you one more thing before we launch into this, when I was a teenager, I don't remember which year exactly, but I remember standing by one of the Rebbe's talks, and some of you have probably heard this from me already because I find it meaningful. It's something I think about probably every day. And the Rebbe asked a question, and I was a teenager, but it made sense to me. The Rebbe looked at Judaism as a program for life, but a program that really encouraged us to be useful and productive and consistently extending ourselves. And the Rebbe asked the question. He said, "So why would God create a world and a human nature that necessitates us sleeping 6 to 8 hours a night? If it's all productivity focused, so much time we have to take off from being useful and productive," which struck me as a good question. And the Rebbe answered that, if you stay up all night, it's like one run-on day. He said, sleeping at night creates a psychological, in our minds, whether we're conscious of it or not, a buffer between one day and the next. So when we wake up in the morning, like I woke up this morning and looked and say, here's a day, and it's its own slice of life. And if God gave me this day, that means today I have an opportunity to make it meaningful in its own unique way. Yesterday's problems may still be here, probably will, but I have a fresh take, a fresh opportunity to come at it differently than yesterday. I mean, I know in my life, there are things that I'm trying to get my mind around. I say, I'm going to wait until tomorrow morning because I'm going to come at it fresh, and it works. And when we go to bed at night, we're going to look back at the day and say, and in our prayers, and our nighttime prayers, are try to address it, and we try to rid ourselves of any resentments from the day or whatever it may be, and try to file this day, because tomorrow's a whole new world. So if I look at the difference between Monday and Tuesday as being an entirely new slice of life, I'm born again on Tuesday morning, and I'm going to bed at night, but I have a whole fresh slice of life. That doesn't lend itself to monotony. It's what am I going to do with today? Because it doesn't have to be like yesterday. And if it is if the actions are the same as yesterday, my approach doesn't have to be the same as yesterday. That I can control. If I work in a cubicle in AT&T and I have to go there tomorrow, also, okay. But what am I bringing to it? Okay. So, let me just try and get this. All right. So we're going to take a look. This is on page 4. And I'm just going to say, we'll just read the first few. This is from the pieces in the this week's Torah portion in the scripture. It says, God spoke to Moses, saying, command the children of Israel and say to them, my offering, my food. God calls these offerings as though God eats food. We'll talk about this soon. For my fire offerings are a spirit of satisfaction for me. You shall take care to offer me each one at its appointed time. And then it says that the ones that they should offer two each day. In verse 3, that we offer these unblemished lambs in the first year each day as a continual burnt offering. So in this here, what the Torah the Torah is saying is that each one that the offerings have their appointed time, and the first thing is bring regular ones every single day. So just to get if the Hebrew is, and I'm going to show you inside also in a second, the Hebrew word for holiday, the Torah word for holiday, is moed. Somebody may be familiar with the Hebrew word. It comes up. Moed, like M-O-E-D. A moed actually means an appointment. So if we were sitting and talking now before Passover, and I said the holiday's coming, and the holiday's a moed. Well, the moed is a holiday, and it's an appointed time. An appointed time is like having a date night with someone special, or setting up special time, setting aside special time. And Passover is a special time. It's a special time to think about our inner liberation and freedom, historically and presently, all of that. It's a time to soak something in and connect with God in a certain way. It has a flavor, Passover. Rosh Hashanah is a moed. It has its flavor. Yom Kippur is also a moed. The idea of saying that that the daily offerings that we did 365 days a year, the identical offering, even on holidays have their own separate offerings, added offerings. Say that and it's appointed time. Say it's appointed time. It's like every day is an appointed time. What does that mean? You're kind of whittling. It would seem to be devaluing the word of moed, which means it's a special day. It's a special appointment. Let's get it. Actually, what I let me stop this a second. What I also.
A question, please.
Sure.
In this portion, it says that you're supposed to sacrifice a lamb every day. Aren't they going to run out of animals to sacrifice?
Apparently, they took a lot of them out in Egypt. Good question, but we have no record of them running out.
We had 600,000 people, but
Yeah, apparently, and we had to feed them all also, right? Good question. What I'm bringing up here from this is from much earlier in the Torah, the story of Sarah, who was childless, and God says that you're going to have a child. If you look in verse 14, it says the angel continued. The angel is talking.
the word.
No, it's not in there. It's on this, only on this, only on this. No, I just brought this up just because I wanted to. Is anything too wondrous for God? At the exact time that I designated, I'll return to you. God is talking now to Abraham, but as sure as you are now alive and well, so will you be alive and well then, and Sarah will have a son in that day. Now, what it said, the language is the time I designated. And Rashi, the primary commentary in the Torah, in the shaded box, the second piece says, at that specific time that I fixed for you yesterday, at this time next year. So the connotation of that, and the word is moed there. The connotation of moed is that it's a special time set aside. So what does Rashi tell us in this week's Torah portion? And we'll go to text 2. At its appointed time, and the Hebrew is moed, for those who can read that, each day is the appointed time prescribed for the continual offerings. Right? It's a funny thing. Rashi seems to be saying every day is its own holiday. Every day has an appointed time. So the Torah is going to start talking to us special things for Shabbat and special things for Passover, for Rosh Hashanah, and for Sukkot and all of that. He said, but we use the same word here on daily offerings, no different one day to the next. He said each day was its appointed time. We do this on Tuesday. And we do this on Wednesday. We did this on Tuesday also. That's okay, but today's Wednesday. And we're going to look at it in a Wednesday frame of mind. So let's try to understand this a little bit. And this is going to be text 7. We're going to go to page 9. Because,
Like in a
I'm leaving.
diner every Thursday.
What?
Like in a diner every Thursday, split pea soup. Every Friday is clam chowder.
Okay, so I'm going to stay away from the clam chowder. I'll stick with the pea soup. Yeah, but my point. But imagine if it's pea soup every day, you find another diner, right? Because monotony is monotony. There's some things, in some way, we're having pea soup every day in some things in our lives. So to just say, oh, well, that's a throwaway. I got to find something special, which is nice. Variety is a spice of life. But we'll talk about how do we find meaning in the pea soup. Because there's going to be some of that pea soup every day. Yeah.
But there is comfort in everything.
Consistency.
In consistency. That's, to me, that lays a foundation from which other things can grow. And when you talked about what the Rabbi talked about, the sleep.
Yeah.
I liken that to every day you really have an opportunity for Shabbat. That sleeping is like a Shabbat. It's a refreshing
Yes.
time for you.
I'm totally with you. And consistency, as Dr. Koopman, a blessed memory, said, that is security. And I want to teach my kids good habits. Really, what I'm talking about, though, is to find the strength in not taking them for granted and doing them automatically. Not to change them because it's a good thing. Why should I change something that works? And part of that is finding a Shabbat within. The sleep is refreshing. In Hasidic thought, they say prayer is like a Shabbat every day, because when you pray, we shut down the world, you stand back, start thinking about ourselves, think about where we're going, and then hopefully we're much more conscious when we come out of prayer and we look at our day. And yes, it may be pea soup, and I had pea soup yesterday, but I can appreciate the pea soup more. And so it's about finding an appreciation that's really within us to be able to inject into life, because life in and of itself, I once read somewhere, I can't remember what it was, but that people like very high number of, like, maybe in the 80% or whatever it is, they use basically the same words every day. And we do a lot the same. So does that mean it's just routine? It doesn't have to. Every day can be special. Every conversation can be special. Who cares if I used those words yesterday? I'm meaning something, I'm using a connection here. But the question is, what would I put into it? And so if I teach my kids to say thank you and please, that's a good start. But at a certain point, I want them to mean please and mean thank you and mean I'm sorry, not just say it. That's what we're talking about, is being able to find a perspective so that we can see the meaning in that pea soup, which I had yesterday. Not this very one, but it seems like the same thing, but it's to bring it to life.
And
Yeah.
so I have 3 children. And I'm likening what you're saying, I'm making this metaphorical comparison, and that is, I'm a mother.
Yeah.
And every day I'm a mother.
Right.
But I'm a different mother to each child, because each child brings something different to me and spurs something else. So if I'm waking up today on a Sunday, it's a Sunday like another Sunday, like last Sunday before. But what happened last night to bring me today? And what is the day? What is the sky? What are the plans? Yes, I'm gonna make myself a tea or a coffee, but what is it? And by virtue of the fact that I still am, that in and of itself makes it different.
I think that's beautiful, and we can make it different. And part of what we're going to talk about now is, even if it's not different, to be able to find the beauty just in the consistency is very, very special. In a way, and we'll get into this in a second, someone stands on the chuppah to get married. You're saying, someone I really want to marry, it's beautiful, it's a great spot. Are they thinking marry because we're going to have some great vacations? Or that, you'll make me a special kugel one day and I'll buy you special flowers one day? Or is that we're going to be able to be together, just be together? And being together itself is going to be beautiful. And so you say there's nothing special about that. You were together yesterday and you were together your whole life. That's a long time. It's because you say that there's a beauty to the consistency. If it's a consistency we want, that's a proper one. Okay. So we're going to get to launch this idea of what how the Rebbe looked at it here in text 7. He's quoting Maimonides. Maimonides, I want to go back to the idea of the offerings. We don't do offerings. We haven't done them for thousands of years. Without a temple, we can't do offerings as far as doing the animals. But prayer and thought is our offerings.
So who decided that it was okay not to do offerings?
The Torah really attaches it to the obligation to do offering to having the temple. And once there's no temple, we can't do it. So someone who wanted to do it now would be violating Jewish law. But there's no offerings, but the idea the Talmud says that every time we pray, that's an offering to God. So you want to be able to see what the offerings taught us, to see what we can bring into our own lives on a Sunday in July 2025, and even on a Monday in July in 2025. So what does Mendy say? What was the whole temple? It was a big, beautiful building. There's lots going on there. What was the center of it? It is a mitzvah to build a house for God. And the point of it, of the whole temple, was to bring offerings. I don't like the word sacrifices as a translation, so forgive me for saying offerings. We celebrate before him 3 times a year there, as the verse states, because there are 3 there are numerous holidays, but there are 3 holidays that are considered, they were pilgrimage holidays, when people were encouraged to come to Jerusalem from wherever they were. So that was Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So 3 times a year they would come, and it says, the language is, you should make, God says, make for me a sanctuary. So the sanctuary is a place where we can connect with God. And again, in Jewish thinking, is we make our homes, our hearts, a sanctuary for God, because we don't have that anymore. But a synagogue is considered a mini sanctuary, and our homes can be a mini sanctuary. So what was the center point were these offerings? And what do they say here? Each offering is served as a means to draw divine energy into the world. Each of those things, each of those offerings, what were they? It's like they're bringing animals. It doesn't seem to make sense to us in our way of thinking now. It's a bizarre thing to imagine, but they were very powerful spiritual exercises, which we want to emulate today without the animals. And they're each were a trigger for connectedness with God. And the way they're phrasing it here is serve as a means to draw divine energy into the world. So, and I'm going to look, the founder of Chabad once wrote about this. And so text 8. When it says my offering, my food for my fire, which was what we just, that's the piece from this week's Torah portion. The offerings, or what they called sacrifices, God refers to them in an interesting way. An offering we understand. Food, God doesn't eat. But on his fire, the fire is there on the altar. What does the term food mean? The term my food can be understood like this. Imagine someone who hasn't eaten for 3 days, or even for 1 day. Think of yourself at the end of Yom Kippur. It's a drag. It isn't easy. One's life force starts to drain. The soul rises and pulls inward, no longer spreading throughout his body. We're not, especially if we're talking about 3 days. There's no nutrition, there's no energy. Mind becomes weak, vision blurry. But then, when you eat, soul returns, filling his body again, and his mind and vision are restored. Stand at the end of Yom Kippur, and eat some whitefish or a bagel or something. The blood sugar goes up, right? That's what the doctor will tell me. The spiritual doctor says my soul refills my body. It's the same thing, right? It's you're drawing life back into ourselves. That's what food does. Food is an energy source. So it says, think about this like this on a higher level. All the worlds, meaning the entire structure of reality, the whole solar system, is considered a body. And divine light flows through them, giving them life. So if my body, God gives me life, in the body of reality, God fills and it gives it existence and gives it life. This is like the soul above. Just as the soul must spread through the limbs, food is what brings the soul into the body. So what do? We try to bring more godliness into our lives, which means like bring more soul into our body. If I'm feeling spiritually dry this morning, but it's feeling like a kind of a lifeless day. It's like I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't feel particularly connected with anybody. And I said, "There's God." And I pray to God, and I'm trying to bring a sense of godliness. And bringing godliness to my life means bringing purpose and meaning into my life. And when the offerings were brought, the offerings were brought as a trigger and a gesture to God. We're looking for you. We're looking for your presence. So on Passover, when they brought a specific offering, they're saying it's a time of liberation, a time of inner freedom, and there's so much that we need, and we're trying to bring that energy into the world, like bring food into a starving body, or drink into a parched one. So all of the offerings for the holidays, they were at an appointed time. They brought a specific time, specific flavor of holiness, a connection. Passover one, Sukkot another, Rosh Hashanah a different one. Each holiday has its flavor, and when we get closer, that's exactly what we talk about: preparing for Passover, preparing for Shavuos. Each one has its own flavor. It's its own flavor of connectedness with God. So this is the concept of sacrifices, which are called my food. Just as bread restores the soul to the body, the sacrifices bring the divine light into the world, which like the body in this analogy. Okay, so now, most sacrifices, they put in here, correspond to time-bound spiritual energies and are accessible only in their designated windows. So if I brought the Passover offering, times at the temple, obviously I can't do that now. Let's say we had this, the temple, we're living, outside Jerusalem, and we're having this class, and there's a temple there, and we studied the beauty of inner spiritual freedom and psychological freedom, and being able to break through our own inertia and the things that keep us down. And there's an offering that triggers that idea, that Passover liberation. We're in the summer. It's not Passover. We say, something, let's go to Jerusalem. We're going to bring the Passover offering. Doesn't work, because what God tells us on Passover is that now there's a special holy energy accessible. You can find freedom any day, but not the Passover, not the Passover bread. Eat matzah on Passover. There's a special energy. Or let me take it to somewhere else. Some people tell me, I'm going to have the Seder, 2 weeks before, because that's when the family can get together. It's wonderful to get the family together, and matzah is always good, but the mitzvahs of Passover are attuned to connect with a certain energy that's there in the world on that day. So it's not we're not meeting it where it is. We can't access it if it's not available. So the offerings were attuned to the energies of specific days, mostly the holidays. That's why it's an appointed time. Today's the Passover. These offerings are going to help you trigger the Passover blessing. But the Tamid, what about the Tamid? Means the perpetual offering. That corresponds to a divine energy that transcends time altogether and wasn't bound to a specific moment. The Tamid, every day they would bring an offering and say, and we're trying to access something. What? It's not Passover, it's not Shabbos, it's not Rosh Chodesh, it's nothing. It's just Monday. But there is a special, powerful connection which isn't bound by time. It hopefully would be, if we can bring it into human form, this special connection with the connection with someone special. It's not someone's birthday. It's not a special event. It's just because we're together. Because being together itself is special. It doesn't have to be bound. It doesn't have to be specifically defined. So here's from the Rebbe along these lines. The fact that the holiness of these days affects the time means by definition that it is limited. The holiness, it's God is unlimited. God is untrammeled. God is non-composite. God is simple existence. Then we say, but there's a Passover energy. That's kind of defining. It's bringing it down into a definition. It's beautiful. Shabbos is holy, but it's a specific definition of divine energy. That's why the inspiration of a special day is specifically connected to that particular day. The beauty of Shabbos is defined. It's incredible. We look forward to Shabbos. but Shabbos is Shabbos. You can't today. We can say the Shabbos prayers. You're not connecting to the right voltage because it's not Shabbos. Today's a Sunday day. But so Shabbos, and I say Rosh Chodesh, beginning of the month, there's all special things where there's an energy, and we try to connect with that. But what we're saying is there is something specific. Specific is not infinite. Specific is not unlimited. The idea of God being beyond specifics is what we can connect on any day. With the Tamid offering, it's the opposite. That is why something is always present, infinitely, which makes it clear that the Tamid sanctity, and Tamid again means the perpetual offering, is connected to the revelation of the Almighty Himself, who is beyond any changes, God forbid. Therefore, it shines and dwells constantly without any limitation. The Rebbe's take on this is saying, based on the founder of Chabad, saying that there's something specifically beautiful in not having a definition. It just is. And there's a beauty to the just is. If I'm alive, I'm sitting after this class, and I don't have any work to do, and I don't have any specific phone calls, and I want to speak to, and it's 12 o'clock. I say, what about the beauty of just being here? What about it? It's a gift. And now, what am I going to do? What am I doing? How do I want to use this gift? But just because today isn't my birthday and I don't have a bar mitzvah and I don't have any special things, stimulating things to do, doesn't mean that today is a throwaway. It may feel like, dead wood for a moment to say, but it's existence. Existence itself is beautiful. So I think I'm trying to draw the analogy. In my life, I'll have these. This is a special day because of that. That's a special day because of that, and that's not a special day. But being alive is special. Yes.
Isn't it also special because unless you live in a total bubble, you will interact with other people. And by virtue of the fact that you have interacted with other people, you have an opportunity to make those other people's lives better for having interacted with you. And
I 100%. I totally see that. Now, the only thing is, I'm thinking about what is someone who's not interacting. How valuable is his or her day? There's value there too, but I agree with you. The idea of and connecting with people, it brings meaning to life. Absolutely, you're a piece of everyone you meet, and it's we're alive for relationships, right? Even if they're not, it's not something a deep, intimate relationship, but just connecting with someone and giving someone a smile, a joke. There's some connection that's that you add it to their value, you add it to your own value.
then shouldn't we look around to see how we can do that if we are physically and mentally capable of doing so? Isn't that incumbent upon us?
I think so. Actually, I was mentioning in shul yesterday that there's a verse in the Torah from yesterday that Israel is like a rising lion, which is why they took that term. The Israeli government took that term for the Iran. Rashi explains rising lion in an interesting way. It says, as Jews, we wake up in the morning and we grab opportunities for our mitzvah. Now, grabbing means it doesn't come to me. I'm grabbing it. I'm being proactive, and so yes, and the language is called a chotef mitzvahs. It's a person who grabs mitzvahs. It sounds a little aggressive, but doesn't mean that it's if you're looking for a meaningful life, look for those openings and grab them. 100%. What I would say is even more. Let's say someone is infirm and they can't get out, and then I would hope that we could allow that person could find a meaning, especially today with the internet, of just in the being, the essence of being alive. And someone could say, "What about my great aunt who's comatose?" Torah says that there's still, even though we can't see it, and that she's not going to Bloomingdale's, and they're not going to see. You're not going to be able to see the meaning. Them being alive in God's world is a gift to their soul. We hope we should never get to such a situation, but it's you find, and you just said it's a good, we can find there's some things, it's a special day. Sometimes we have to make it a special day. And then something maybe really can't even find a way to make it a special day, but it's special anyway. Go ahead.
Sorry. So my husband has Parkinson's Lewy body dementia, and I took care of him for 5 years at home until I physically couldn't. So he is in a facility, and I go there every day. And so he cannot reach out, okay? But there are some people within the memory unit who still have the capacity to reach out. And one day, this American Italian man reaches out to him, and he says, "He's my best of friend." So the eking out of what you can, and is amazing, but you have to look for it.
Yes,
You have to be present.
yes.
Thank you.
No, yeah. God should bless him and you.
Thank you.
I'm
Gave me journey.
Uh,
A blessing.
you know something? That's, I believe it. I believe it. So here the Rebbe says the tamid is different. The perpetual one is different than we find that this is a trigger for the energy of Passover. That's triggered for the energy of Sukkot. Each day is a point of time for the tamid. Each day is its own. Again, a point of time means a moed in Hebrew, which means an appointed time. In other words, it's its own. It's special because we bring the perpetual offering. It has its own specialness to it. It's clear we can't. No, so I want to explain something that what the Rebbe is talking about here. And I didn't want to make it too complex, so I cut out some of the things before. There's an interesting thing in Jewish law, in that if on Saturday there was a special offering called the Musaf offering. Let's say we're working in the temple, been a hard week, we forgot. And oops, Shabbos is over, didn't bring the offering. We had set aside, there's one set aside, it just didn't happen. So we say, this offering can't be brought, you can't wait to do it next Shabbos. And this offering, let the animal go out and pasture. So with all the offerings, it's that way. What happens if we forgot to bring the Sunday offering? The perpetual, every single day there's an offering, the Sunday offering, we forgot to bring it. It's a rough day, it's the 17th of Tammuz, whatever. We had an offering set aside, I forgot. Tomorrow I can't bring the Sunday offering, but I can use that. In other words, let me rephrase that. I lost the opportunity for Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday, but I can use this animal on Monday. And what the Rebbe is saying here is, let's take a look at this a second. Each day is appointed time for the Talmud, so it's clear we can't fulfill today's obligation by bringing tomorrow's offering, because tomorrow isn't its appointed time. I had an obligation to bring something on Sunday, and Monday I'm not going to do it, so I missed Sunday. But there's no source that says that the sacrifice is null, meaning that the sacrifice itself becomes void. We can use that offering and bring it on Monday. Simply put, we must bring the Talmud sacrifice the next day because the existence or value of the sacrifice still stands. What the Rebbe is saying about an insight just into the laws of the offerings is that the Shabbos offering is limited to Shabbos, this animal. We set it aside. If we set it aside for Passover, it's for Passover. After Passover, it can't be brought as an offering anymore. Let it go to the pasture. Rosh Hashanah, all the same. Sunday's offering is undefined. Bring it Monday. You didn't do Sunday. You still do Monday. Why? Because it's not limited. It's not so defined that it's. If my anniversary is defined, my birthday is defined. The special things are defined, but there are things that it's just finding the meaning in life. You say just saying hello to somebody. That's not defined to a Sunday or a Monday. If I didn't do it today, I missed today, but tomorrow I can do it. It's not so constricted. In their language here, even if the day's obligation was missed, the tamid, meaning the perpetual offering, can be brought the next day because its value and holiness remain. The potential I had for meaning holiness and usefulness today, I messed up. I just stayed on the couch and watched TV all day. Fine, but tomorrow I can do it because it's not like I missed Shabbos. Well, tomorrow's not going to be Shabbos. It's another thing. It's the value of being alive. Do it tomorrow. Text 11. If you look at the language in the scripture, in the prophet Malachi, he said the language is quoted in God, "For I, God, have not changed, and you, the children of Jacob, have not reached the end." Which is, it means not reached the end means of plumbing the depths of our relationship. But the main part is I, God, have not changed. We talk about God as being infinite, God as being simple, as simpleness as in powerfully simple, undefined. Passover is defined, Shabbos is defined. Sunday's energy with God is not so defined. It's me and God. And in that sense, it's even more powerful than a Passover because it's more connected to the infinite. Even though Passover is a wonderful holiday, Shabbos is a wonderful holiday, there's a power just in the very fact that it's a day. Text 12. When we say a blessing, one should have in mind the meaning of the words. When mentioning God's name, and some of you may know the common term in our prayers is Adonai, right? But often it's written not as Adonai, it would be what people call Jehovah. Now we don't express that. We read it, we don't express it. So here, the Code of Jewish Law says when we mention God's name in prayer, one should think of its meaning as Adonai. Adonai means the master of all. That's a specific thing about God. God is the master, our creator. Good. And the master. But when we write it with the letters Yud and Hey, the other one, that's a contraction of words which mean God was, is, and will be. What does that mean? That God is beyond capture in anything specific. And that's what the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, a non-holiday energy reflects. God's infinite presence is available at any given moment throughout the year, not just on special occasions. Pesach is a beautiful gift. Shabbos is a beautiful gift, but a very specific gift, and we love gifts. We like a gift, it's something different. Someone give me a gift today, that would be nice. But that's a spice. Sunday is a gift of just undefined existence and connection and the ability for an infinite connection with God. And if we look at ourselves that way, and we look at life that way, it's a different pea soup. It's today's pea soup. Today's is my slice of life that God gave me to be able to connect and be who God created me to be. And it's today's pea soup. Tomorrow's pea soup will be a little different. And the truth is, why shouldn't I have vegetable soup?
That's Monday. They use all the vegetables left over from the weekend.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a boring guy. I never been to a diner. Text 13. This is from the founder of Chabad. A wise person should reflect on the greatness of God. His name says it all. God is infinite with no end or limit. His light and life flow from him, and this all comes through his simple, unique will, completely united with his essence. And that is something that's not limited to any holiday. It's just part of life. And now the Rebbe brings this as a conclusion. Let's translate this idea to our God as it relates to our godly service. When a Jew's service is constant, There are no changes in how they serve. Whether it's a weekday, Shabbos, Yom Tov, or Yom Kippur, they maintain a similar mindset and approach. The focus is always the same, fulfilling God's will. I spoke, my will was done. Now that I was talking about the beauty of a different type of consistency. This kind of service comes from being completely devoted to God's will. For such a Jew, they easily feel that God, have not changed, and therefore the commitment never changes. Our relationship to God, and you spoke before about being a parent. I have 8 kids, so it's varied, and each one needs their own connection. But the driving force behind it all is I want to be a good parent. And then the expression to one is expression to another. My commitment to the day is I wake up in the morning and say, I'm created by God. Thank you, God, for another day. God gave me this Sunday, gave each of us this Sunday, X amount of hours. We're going to go to bed in 12 hours or so. And now we're going to look back at the day. So what's this day going to be? There could be different things, obviously, for each of us. But we maybe come up a few different curveballs and different situations. But the driving force should be, I want this to be a meaningful day. I want to be who God created me to be. I can be that when a challenge comes my way. It's also, what does God expect me to do with this? Someone just hurt me. What should call to mind is, what's the right way to deal with this? Maybe I'm dealing with a loneliness. What's the right way to deal with this? I'm behind someone in ShopRite and they're taking too long. What's the right way to do with it? Or they're not taking too long. Maybe I should reach out and say, good afternoon. Whatever it may be. Like I said, reaching out. But the consistency of what the Rebbe is advising here is not to think that necessarily everything's going to be the same, but there's a consistent attitude of, I want to be who I need to be. And I want to lead a godly connected life. And the way for me to do it is to be conscious that this is life's, God gave me this life as an obstacle course, and I have to deal with it. And I want to make it the most of it, but I want to do it with a consistent thing. A theme is that I'm driven by my North Star of leading a meaningful life. So I'm going to stop the share there. Are there any questions? Oh, 1 second. I missed the chat. I don't see it. Okay. Let me read this, if that's okay. Every day, prayer to me appears to be relatively closer to Talmud. Not pure time as a daily prayer is time bound, not outside of time. That's true. But it is, yes, the prayers are almost entirely the same every single day. As far as I understand, if I missed the Sunday morning Shema, I do not say Tu Shema on Monday morning. Am I incorrect? You are correct. I can also say if I miss Shabbos, I can connect a week later. Yes, you can. And there's some things, you lost an opportunity. But I think what the Rebbe is saying that we read, that we derive from the Talmud offering, the perpetual offering, is that there was something in yesterday, and there was something in Shabbos. But Shabbos also had the perpetual offering. If it didn't bring it, that same animal could have brought it on Sunday because of something every day, Shabbos, Passover, or today, which just depends my undefined relationship with God. And that, if you didn't recognize it yesterday, recognize it today. You can access that. You can't access the Shabbos energy today. You can't access the Pesach energy today, and you're actually tomorrow. You're not going to be able to access the Sunday energy. But the pure connectedness that's always the Joker. You can always the Ace of Spades. You can always use that. Yes.
Question. So Shabbos comes and I don't know, I lost track of time and now it's past candle lighting time.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that
We don't.
if I don't do it on time, it's like lighting any candle. So
Correct.
I don't do it. So the following Shabbos, do I have to now light two? I mean, I read something where it's cumulative, now you gotta. add
It's,
to it.
that's an interesting, yeah, it's an interesting question, because there we do find more as kind of to keep a mnemonic. Don't forget again that if you miss one shot, 1 week Shabbos candles, do it, add one the next week. If you keep forgetting, yeah, don't make forest fires. And it's just it's really meant. It's not that's an advice of the rabbis.
Right. I'll be setting a barn on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's.
Don't try this at home.
That,
I'm just saying, but if you were lighting one and now you light two, so every week when you light, you remember. I once forgot that I'm going to be careful. I'm going to from now on. But if it goes up to 3 and 4, you don't have to do it.
They have a similar accident with that. In early office.
oh.
All
my
right.
goodness.
If there are no questions, wish you all a great week.
Have a great day, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.